to be a Liberian, and I don't care what anybody will say. I will jump and sing and shout hooray, 'cause today is our Independence Day. Liberia, Liberia, we are free. Liberia, 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 our Liberia, we are free. Today is our day. Liberia, now my country, now my motherland, and I'll be where them from me. That's why I started the hustling. So if you don't know me, don't judge me. We don't want gunshots, we don't want popo. All we want is the power to make our dough. I will raise you and me, I will raise you and you. Come on, and who prevail. Go on.
All right, folks. Welcome to Liberia Shall Rise. This is your host, Dr. Positive, Stephen Keller, as most people know. Today's topic is independence, its meaning, and its importance in the rise of Liberia. Independence, it means, and its importance in the rise of Liberia. When we say independent, what do we mean? When we say we are independent, what do we mean? So I want you to join me this afternoon, wherever you are, morning, evening, wherever you are. Let's discuss independence. Liberia is going to be celebrating its independence on July 26th. We have two topics this week. So tomorrow we'll be discussing patriotism. Today we're going to be discussing independence. What does independence mean? And how is that important in the rise of Liberia? So I want you to join me. Invite your neighbors, invite your friends, and tell them Dr. Positive is live. Get your popcorn, and don't forget your cassava gravy, folks, as we go live today. I'm going to play a song by Screwface called I'm Proud to Be a Liberian. We all are proud to be a Liberian, but is Liberia already independent? Or is Liberia an autonomous region? Or is Liberia a dependent country? So we're going to be going over that, like I always tell you guys, I'm no expert in these things, but sometimes these things come to me and I have to bring it to you guys for us to discuss. So join me as the novice, as the ignorant person here tonight for us to discuss this thing. Independence. What does it mean for Liberia, and how is this important for us to define our independence if Liberia shall rise? So join me. I'm going to play this song by Screwface. After that song, we're going to go right into the topic again. Thank you for joining Liberia Shall Rise. It is a pleasure to be here again after a few days off. So let's hear the song from Screwface. Right after that song, we're going to get the show started. Thank you.
It's your day. It's time to party. This is real fight. Doing it for you. I am proud to be a Liberian, and I don't care what anybody go say. I will jump and sing and shout hooray, 'cause today is our Independence Day. Liberia, oh our day. Liberia, we are free. Liberia, number one. Liberia, Liberia, our day. Liberia, we are free. 'Cause today is our day. Liberia, now my country, now my motherland, and I'll be where them bomb me. That's why I started the hustling. So if you don't know me, don't judge me. We don't want gunshots, we don't want popo. All we want is equal rights and peace to make our dough. Liberates you and me, liberates me and you. Let's live in harmony and peace. Who prevail? Do what is right and good, and take our children back to school. Hard work and determination, and we will fail. Economically, strategically, physically, we can make a difference automatically. Let's live in unity, all for one and one for all. I'm proud to be a Liberian, and I don't care what anybody go say. I will jump and sing and shout hooray, 'cause today is our Independence Day. Liberia, oh our day. Liberia, we are free. Liberia, number one. Liberia, Liberia, our day. For we all capable of doing wrong. All we have to do is join hands and sing this song. We are free, Liberia, we are free. Oh, no more war, forever we are free. Time when we are, oh my baby, and if you get narrative, oh, fire, you mapa, remember, Bombaga, baby, are you ready? Bombaga, people, are you ready? Dependence Day, jump and shout to it, screw face, baby, I am proud to be a Liberian, and I don't care what anybody will say. I will jump and sing and shout hooray, 'cause today is our Independence Day. Liberia, oh our day. Liberia, we are free. Liberia, no more war. Liberia, Liberia, our day. We are free. 'Cause today is our day. People, today is your day. It's time to party. You know, time to shake that stress off. Forget about the past. It's dead and gone. Now sing with me. Let's go. Say whoa. Say whoa. When I say screw, you say face. Screw face, screw face. When I say screw, you say face. Screw face, screw face. I tell you, Liberia, Liberia, say Liberia, Liberia, Monrovia, 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 Monrovia. Pimpin' pimpin', pimpin' pimpin', pimpin' pimpin', pimpin' pimpin', pimpin' pimpin'. That's what I'm talking about. Liberia, it's your day. Jump up, hey, put on some, hey, put on some, hey, put on some, hey, put on some, hey. Now shake your body, shake your body, shake your body. Now shake your body, shake your body. Ade, so bend down, Liberia, bend down, bend down, Liberia, bend down. Say put your hands up, put your hands up. Screw and the face, Ajay, Liberia. Liberia, we are free. Liberia, no more war. Liberia, Liberia, our day. Liberia, we are free. 'Cause today is our day. Liberia, our day. Liberia, we are free. Liberia, no more war. Liberia, Liberia, our day. Liberia, we are free. 'Cause today is our day. My people, today is your day. It's time to party. You know, time to shake that stress off. Forget about the past. It's dead and gone. Now sing with me. Let's go. Say whoa, whoa. Say whoa, whoa. Yeah, 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 yeah. Say whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, when I say screw, you say face. Screw face, screw face. When I say screw, you say face. Screw face, screw face. I tell you, Liberia, Liberia, say Liberia, Liberia, Monrovia, 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 Monrovia. Pimpin' pimpin', pimpin' pimpin', pimpin' pimpin', pimpin' pimpin', pimpin' pimpin', pimpin' pimpin', pimpin'. That's what I'm talking about. Liberia, it's your day. Jump up, hey, put on some, hey, put on some, hey, put on some, hey, put on some, hey. Now shake your body, shake your body, shake your body. Now shake your body, shake your body. Ade, so bend down, Liberia, bend down, bend down, Liberia, bend down. Say put your hands up, put your hands up, this is screw and the face, Ajay, Liberia. Oh, our day. Liberia, we are free. Liberia, no more war. Liberia, Liberia, our day. Liberia, we are free. 'Cause today is our day. Liberia, oh, our day. Liberia, we are free. So bend down, Liberia, bend down, bend down, Liberia, bend down. Say put face Ajay. Liberia, oh our day. Liberia, we are free. Liberia, no more war. Liberia, Liberia, our day. Liberia, we are free. Today is our day. Liberia, oh our day. Liberia, we are free. Liberia, no more war. Liberia, our day. We are free.
This is our day. Okay, all right. Again, folks, welcome to Liberia Shall Rise. This is your humble servant, Stephen E. Keller, aka Dr. Positive, welcoming you to another edition of Liberia Shall Rise. All right, my prince said, "We'll just leave the dancing to you." You want to leave the dancing to you? Okay, I'll leave the dancing to you, Prince. No problem. But again, folks, welcome to the show. This is another topic that is dear to my heart because, pastors and other people get inspiration. For me, these things come to me in the same way too. This topic was another one that just came to me and said, hey, are we really independent? Is Liberia as a country really independent? Or are we autonomous region? Or are we a dependent country? So when these things come to me, in my own little mind, not being this smart, intelligent guy, I'd be like, all right, let me take it to Facebook and discuss it with people and see why the smart people out there will help me to understand. So folks, I want you to join me today to help me understand, or to even educate the doctor himself, Dr. Positive, to understand whether Liberia is really independent. So let's start from the educational perspective. Let's just go gradually into the definition first and say, what does it mean to be independent, right? When they say independent, what does it mean? Then we'll kind of look at independence on the other level. When you are not independent, you are dependent, right? So let me give you this analogy before we define independence. Say you are a child, you are with your parents, you live with them for, the age in America, once you are 18, you become independent, you can do your own thing, you can sign your own documents. But again, you're not really independent because I think to be in the military, you have to be certain, I think maybe 21 or something, or even to go out and drink, you have to be 21. But let's look at it from the 18-year-old perspective. I have a child, that child lived with me, right? And that child said, hey, Daddy, I'm independent today. I decide to go on my own. I want to be able to make my own decisions. I want to be able to decide what I want to do. I want to decide when I want to come home, right? And I said, oh, son, it's okay. You can go on your own, right? Then my son go out on his own, and eventually my son decide that every decision in his household to decide when he want to have children, he come to me. His father said, Father, I'm ready to have children. Should I go ahead and have children? Then I said, yes, my son, you can go ahead and have children. Then he go ahead and have his first child. Then he come back again after maybe 9 to 10 months again. Oh, Father, I'm ready to have a child. Do you think I should have a boy or a girl? Then I said, oh, no, go ahead and have a boy. We need more boys in our family. Then he go and have a boy. Then he want to buy a car. Don't get me wrong, folks. As parents, we always want to be in the life of our children to kind of advise them to keep them in the right path. But when I'm deciding what child my son have, when I'm deciding what kind of food he eats in his house, when I'm deciding what kind of clothes he wear, right? Then my child is not independent. So when you look at independence, it says you have to be dependent of your superior, right? You have to be dependent of your superior. That means you make your own decisions. You decide on what food you will eat in your house. When you are a child, you get married, you and your family now decide which place you want to go on vacation. You don't come back to your father and say, oh, Daddy, I want to go on vacation. Don't get me wrong. Some people are rich. Some family members have enough money that their father will say, hey, son, I want to send you to Dubai for 1 month. I will pay for all expense trip for you and stuff like that. That's not controlling. That's a favor, right? But when you have to come to your father every day and say, hey, Father, I want to go to Dubai. Do you think that's the right place to go? I want to go to Liberia. Do you think that's the right place to go? Then you are no longer independent. You are dependent on your parent. So you never really got your independence. You just left the house just so you can live on your own. But you never really became independent. So to become independent, you have to make your own decisions. You have to say, today I want to eat cassava leaf, and that's what I'm going to eat. I'm going to go to the market, buy my cassava leaf, and cook it. You're not going to go to your father or your mother and say, Father, I want to eat cassava leaf today. So when I say independence, I want us to look at it with that kind of analogy. So look at Liberia, for example. Let's look into the definition of independence and see what it means. I hope you guys are with me. I'm putting on my professor hat today. Stay with me, folks. We got to bring this down. Then you guys can join me later. Let's have this discussion. All right. They say independence is a condition of a person, a nation, or a country, or a state in which its residents and population or some portion thereof exercise self-government and usually sovereignty over its territory. Usually, they say usually it has sovereignty over its territory. Now, the question here is, why is this important if Liberia should rise? Why is this important if Liberia should rise? In my own little mind, I think when we say we are independent, from the values we hold as a country, right? From the values we hold as a country to how we run our country, how we produce our food, how we sell and manage our natural resources. All these things should be solely controlled by us. Everything, to how we sell our natural resources, to how we price our natural resources, all these things should be naturally controlled by us and not anyone else. So when we say we are independent as a country, when we are independent as a country, these are the things that we talk about. It's not somebody making that decision for us, which hospital we want to build. Oh, China is going to build a hospital for us, and they decide to build a hospital for us. Like I said, if you are independent, it doesn't mean that you don't get assistance from your parents, right? You still get assistance from your parent, but when your parent control what you do with the assistance that you get, when your parents control what you do with the decisions that you make, then you are not really independent. Even your uncles, your aunts, when they control everything you do, then you really didn't gain your independence. So when I say independent, it means you wake up in the morning and say, hey, I want to eat pan butter today. I want to eat it with case meat. And you go and buy the case meat. You decide how to cook that pan butter, and you cook it and you eat it to your heart's content. Not going to your father or mother and say, hey, mama, I want to eat cassava leaf. I want to eat pan butter. How do you think I should eat pan butter? Right? Then your mom say, oh, no, you're getting too far. Don't eat pan butter. No, you're not independent anymore. You decide on your own. You want to eat pan butter. Whether you're getting fat or not, you're going to eat pan butter. That's what you want to eat today, and you're going to eat it. So when we say independent, we want to know that whether we are making our own decisions, our own we controlling our own resources. We for example, you have your bank account as an independent child, and now you wanted to go and buy a house. But again, you have to go to your father and say, oh, father, I have this money. I want to buy a house. I mean, seeking advice is fine. Don't get me wrong. Seeking advice is fine. But when your father have to decide, say, hey, oh, it's not time yet for you to buy a house because you don't have enough money. As a married man or as an independent person, then you're really not dependent on your own, on yourself. You are dependent on your parents' decision. So you have to be solely independent of your parents making decision for you. Like when you decide where to live, you can seek advice. Say, hey, do they have good school? Do they have good environment? That's fine. But when a person decides, say, hey, you cannot live over there because I used to live there and I don't like it. Again, you're not being completely dependent on yourself. You are you are not independent. You are dependent on somebody to make that decision for you. So as a country, folks, as a country, this is where I stand and I say, are we really independent? When our hospitals, we don't decide how we run our hospitals. We don't decide how we run our schools. We don't decide how we build our own streets. We don't control all these different aspects of what it takes to be a sovereign country. Then what are we, folks? What are we? This is where I need your help today. I see a whole lot of smart people. Miss Florence is saying here, let me put this out here. Miss Florence is saying here, we are not free. We are in poverty. We are not independent. Miss Florence, I agree with that point. But just by being in poverty, doesn't mean that we are not independent, right? Just by being in poverty doesn't mean that we are not independent. So maybe we are independent, but we are making some wrong decision, right? We are making some wrong decision. That's what make us to be in poverty. So I want to have you guys come and join me. Let's have this discussion because, like I said, I'm just this common guy. I don't know much. I'm just a simple little beginning in the area. I just want to have this discussion. Are we really independent as a country? When we say Liberia, July 26th is coming, folks. We're going to celebrate. I've been working on my dancing shoes and all those stuff. But eventually, we are going to party. We're going to celebrate this thing called July 26th. When we celebrate this thing, what are we celebrating? Are we celebrating an autonomous country or autonomous region or a dependent country or an independent country? This is a question I want us to ponder. As a country, as a nation, as a people, I want us to start thinking about it. What does it mean when you say you are independent? When you leave your parent home, do you control what food you eat? Do you control what children you have? Right? Or your parents are making that decision for you. If your parents are making that decision and say, hey, Johnny, I don't want you to have a girl. I don't want you to have a girl. I want you to have a boy. Then you have to go and fight. Whether it's nature responsibility for you to have a girl, your father said no, I don't want you to have a girl. Then you say, oh no, because my father said he doesn't want a girl, I'm not going to have a girl, right? So your poor wife went and had a baby. Now you have to get angry with her because your father didn't agree for you to have a girl. Then your wife have a girl, and now you're angry because your father didn't agree. That is not independence, folks. We are dependent on someone when they are making all those key decisions for us. Right. So as a country, folks, let's come to the country Liberia. Let's look at another definition. They said a dependent territory, right? So the question here is Liberia independent or is Liberia dependent? So let's look, we define independence where it says somebody own their own responsibilities. They are a sovereign country. They make their own decisions, right? Now, let's look at dependent territory and see what they say when they say dependent territory. A dependent territory, a dependent area. Dependency is a territory that does not possess full political independence, sovereignty as a sovereign state, yet remains politically outside the controlling state integral area, right? So defining dependent, they say as a dependent country, even though you might think you have your own political power, even though you might think you have your own policies, you basically are just outside of the realm of that controlling power. So they decide how you sell your products, they decide how you grow your food, they decide how you do things. So that means that you are not really a independent country. So looking at this definition, let me define it again for you guys to hear it. It says dependency is a territory that does not possess full political independence or sovereignty or as a state, yet remains politically outside the controlling state integral area. So who is controlling Liberia? Who is that country that owns the decision that Liberia make as a country, folks? Our independence is coming up soon. And before I bring anybody on today, I know I see a whole lot of smart people here today. I would like to hear your opinion. I see your comments. Says Yaseni said Liberia is a dependent nation. Miss Florence says you think, let me see here. Miss Florence said you do think for yourself, so you are not independent. Right? You do not think for yourself, so you are not independent. So that's referring to Liberia. Miss Florence, I love you. I would like to hear your voice on this show. I would like for you to call in later on. And then Christina says, one of the biggest obstacles to our independence is the dependent mindset. Oh my God. Miss Taylor, you know, like I said, so many good comments this morning. I think I'm just going to stop here for a little bit and just read the rest of the comments. I'll say, we need to start taking responsibility for our own survival Any nation that cannot feed itself and grow their stable food are a long way from independence. Wow. 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 Miss Taylor, I think I need to have you as a co-host here. He who controls your belly controls you. All right, Miss Taylor, I'm just going to stop on this part and play a video for you guys to hear that video. Then after that video, I would like to hear your point of view. I'm trying to make this as short and sweet as possible. So let's go to the point. Let me just play this one video. And you guys listen to this video keenly. Listen to this video keenly. All African countries, whether you are from Madagascar or wherever in Africa, listen to this video keenly. This might not be a full-fledged video, so it might be a little biased, but just listen to this part of the recording that was captured. And this is circulating on social media. It's circulating everywhere. I want you guys to listen to this video keenly. And after this video, I will start taking calls so that we can all discuss this. Is Liberia really independent? Is Africa really independent? When we say independent, are we really independent? Or are we being controlled? Are we autonomous regions around the world that we call ourselves independent countries? Did we really gain our independence, folks? So wait for this. Listen to this video. After this video finishes, I would like to hear from you. I will put the number out here for you guys to call. I would like to hear some of your voices. I see the great messages you guys are posting, but I would actually like to hear your point of view. Again, thank you for joining the show. This is Liberia Shall Rise. This is your humble servant, Dr. Positive. Again, thank you. Let's hear this video.
Okay, so what I'm going to try and do is just give you some charts and a couple of tables just to paint a little bit of a picture that you already know. Okay, so what this presentation is fundamentally designed to say is this. Africa, historically, sub-Saharan Africa, has been fundamental to the global prosperity of the advanced countries. Okay? And Africa had a role to play. It has a role as a raw material producer. We will not allow sub-Saharan Africa to escape that. Okay, we do everything to keep sub-Saharan Africa where it is, also impoverished. It's absolutely vital for the prosperity of everyone else. So let's get clear about that. Okay, and this means all the economic structures, all the global institutions, and the economics we teach everyone is all designed to keep Africa exactly where it is. And whether it is Europe or US or now China, it's always the same. We need Africa to be impoverished because we need those raw materials and we need them dirt cheap. Okay, so that's the message. It doesn't mean to say that there's nothing Africans can do. Of course there is. Okay, but this is the opposition that they're fighting. This is what it's about. Because
all right, folks, I don't know if you heard that, but he said it is the response is it is mandatory, you can say, for Africa. It is essential for Africa to remain poor, for us, for the West to continue, for the rest of the world to remain wealthy. It is essential for Africa to remain in poverty. So the way we educate them, our schools, he's saying the way they get educated, the whole educational system, the whole international educational system is based on educating us. So for someone like me, Dr. Positive, who sit here and say, oh, I have a master's degree, the fact that a master's degree was gained abroad, that means my mindset has been programmed. I've been programmed to think like people in the West. So my mentality will remain the same, that Africa should stay where it is. The reason that Africa is poor, or the reason that Liberia is poor, is because we are causing our own poverty. Is not because of what other people are doing. Even though they are doing everything they can to keep Africa where it is. In our mind, we think it's our own leaders' fault because they control the day-to-day activity. They are just like how you call it. You can say they had on this facade where they are standing in place for something that they really don't represent. Their country, they are running their country, but deep in the background, other countries are making the decisions. They are playing those cards. They are playing those, pushing those things that need to be pushed for us to stay where we need to stay, right? So imagine this, folks. If these people are sitting, their ideology, like you see the word on the screen, the way they design their programs, the way they design their interaction with us, if all these things are meant to keep us where we are, then are we really independent? Now, again, coming to this, when I say independence, what does it mean? That's what we really need to sit down and define the meaning of independence and look at this word very, very keenly and say, hey, are we really dependent or are we independent? And once we know where we stand, then we have to come back to the drawing table and say, hey, we need to have our own secret meetings. We need to have our own secret meetings and decide on where we want to go in the future, because this is an international conspiracy, right? That is working against us, right? And someone will say, oh, the people have given us independence ever since, so it's not their responsibility anymore. But again, we have this dependent mindset, like someone said, we have this dependent mindset, and we keep going back to these same people that are planning to control us daily, that are planning to control us for the future. And we keep going back to them to say, hey, I want to build my hospital. I want to send my children to school. I want to do this. And they are the ones that are making the decisions on how we educate our people, on how we send our children to school, on how we train our workers, right? So if we are training our workers to not even think about making money, to live in poverty, right? These people, our workers will remain in poverty. They will have that poverty mindset that, hey, I only need to make $2 to live. I don't need to do anything to exceed where I am. So I'm going to stay where I am. So we need to sit down at the drawing table and say, hey, something is going wrong here. Something is wrong here. We are not really dependent. We are not really independent. We have to come back to the drawing table and say, hey, let's redesign how we run our country. Let's redesign how we build our school. Let's redesign how we run our hospitals. And then in this light, then we can all say someday we will become independent. Again, like I said in my analogy, if you keep going back to your parents when you leave your house as an adult, and you now decide to keep going back to your parents to make the decision on how you have your children, on how you raise your children. I mean, like I said, advice is fine. Don't get me wrong. Advice is fine. We all need advice. We all need mentors, right? So it's okay to go to seek advice from people, right? But not to decide how they run your business, not to decide how they run your household, not to decide how you run your own family. When you are doing that, then you are no longer dependent. So let this video finish, and then we can go into the.
If Africa does do something different, I assure you, living standards of all those in Europe and North America and Asia is going to. Opposition that they're fighting. This is what it's about. Because if Africa does do something different, I assure you, living standards of all those in Europe and North America and Asia is going to fall. Okay? And that is a big price to pay. I assure you that the West is not going to allow that without a big fight. Okay, so this is what it's fundamentally about. What I want to show you is how these structures are operating. It's just 20 minutes, so we can't do very much, but just to give you a little bit of an idea. And why I keep the ideology part there is because we are part of the producers of ideology. At universities and academic institutions, we are complicit in this whole enterprise. Okay, so the job of many Western academics is to convince Africans they have to keep doing what they're doing. Okay? And to show them it's your fault that you're poor. It's not our fault. It's your fault that you're poor, you know. So this is what we do in academic institutions, and I want to show that as well. We just start. This is what it's basically about, so you know what it's about. But I want to just show you the extent to which Africa is specializing in the production of raw materials and basic agricultural goods. We know the basic forces that have caused this underdevelopment. We know it's colonization. I will not discuss that very much because my colleague speaker is going to go into some aspects of this. But I do want to discuss the global economic structures, the global financial institutions, and economic ideology, briefly, to give you a flavor of those. Let me start with this. You can't really see it so easily, but if those of you who are interested, you want the PowerPoint, I'm sure we can make it available to you. But the thing that you really need to see is the top line. Okay, and the extent of dependency is captured by this statistic at the top. Okay, and you compare it with all other income groups, and what you see is essentially in that one statistic how dependent sub-Saharan Africa is on raw material production. Okay, this is the very heart of what makes sub-Saharan Africa beat. Okay, here, just to have a look at one very important additional statistic, with all this export coming from sub-Saharan Africa, how much does sub-Saharan Africa account for in terms of global trade value? We know there are vast resources coming from there, but look at the bottom line in terms of global trade value. Look at that. 0.5%, 1975, 0.95%, going down to 0.1. To 0.1. Meaning that with all these vast resources being produced, how much are they getting for it? Nothing. Nothing. This is a very significant piece of data. Then I just want to show you what has happened to sub-Saharan Africa, because what we know, and from all studies, no country ever develops without manufacturing. Okay, producing raw materials will not take you anywhere. Producing basic agricultural goods will not take you anywhere. And let's have a look at how much manufacturing activity takes place in sub-Saharan Africa. We can look over the last 15 odd years, 15, 20 years. And we see manufacturing has actually declined as a percentage of the total. This is percentages of total production in sub-Saharan Africa. How much of it is accounted for by manufacturing? So this figure here is 17% of the total. Most of the rest, when we talk of industry, it includes manufacturing, but the bulk of it is mining. Okay? Raw material extraction. This is the bulk of it. And here we see actually raw material extraction has stayed the same. What has caused industry to fall is the fall in manufacturing production. This is deliberate because we will never, as Western economists, as Western policymakers, we cannot afford to allow Africa to industrialize and start producing manufactures. Okay, so we will do everything to stop that. And I'm going to show you how we actually block that. It's obvious in certain ways, but it's less obvious in other ways. Now, we have actually seen periods of rapid growth in sub-Saharan Africa, misleading people, saying, oh, you know, we're now doing much better. And this has happened recently. Recently, I've had students come and tell me, we've done much better now. And you can see growth rates rose quite sharply in recent times, now are starting to go again down. But if you look historically, the same thing happened earlier. Why? Because in these two periods, we had East Asian rapid industrialization processes. So in the earlier period, we had Japan and Korea and Taiwan.
All right, folks, I think you get the whole idea of the video. This guy is saying that we will never, never, ever allow Africa to control its own manufacturing. We'll never allow Africa to control its own growth, right? So this is not just a Liberia Shiraz thing. This is a whole Africa thing. When folks talk about African unity, when we talk about Africans coming together, this is a serious thing, because the fact that South Sudan is in war is all part of this plan for Africa to remain where it is. The fact that DR Congo remains in war is all part of these plans for Africa to remain where it is. So, folks, we need to really sit down as Africans, wherever we are, to say, hey, how can we plan in our own individual little power and come together as a continent to say, let's do our best to really set foot and do the best for our people. And these videos have to be circulated around the continent until people know what is being planned. Because if our mindset is not changed based on this kind of video, then I don't know what will change the mindset of Africans and even our leaders. Ms. Taylor is saying again, we need to start taking responsibility for our own survival. And a nation that cannot feed itself and grow their staple food are a long way from independence. Okay, I think I got that already. Then Mr. Dweport says, in the general scheme of things, yes, but Africans themselves, ourselves, have played a much greater role that have kept us where we are. I believe that is 100% true, or maybe I'll say 50% true, Mr. Port. That is 50% true. Based on what we're hearing from this thing, the whole idea of revolution in Africa, the whole idea of keeping people in poverty is being planned in some corner somewhere around the world that we don't know. So until we ourselves come together and say, hey, what does it mean to be independent? What does it mean when we say independent? We are still yet a far way to go. So we constantly we blame people, we blame the West, we blame others. But again, statement like this, I don't know if this statement is something that is played, and we don't think that somebody somewhere is controlling the way things go, then I think we all are in a tough spot. But again, to come to our topic today, independence, its meaning and its importance in the rise of Liberia. Like I said, I would like to hear you guys coming in and participating in this conversation, because this is something that Dr. Positive alone cannot handle. This is too big for Dr. Positive alone to handle. So I got my first caller here, and she's going to be on video. So I'm going to bring her online so that we can have this discussion. I want to hear somebody else's point of view, because this is so important that I cannot handle it alone. This is too much load for me to bear. So I'm going to bring this lady. I'm going to have her help me out here to see whether Liberia is independent or if Africa is independent, and what can we do to gain our independence, our true independence. Miss Waller, welcome to Liberia Shiraz. Thank you for joining the show. I'm honored to have you. So welcome.
Thank you for having me. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you clearly. Mm-hmm.
All right. As you can see, I have my red, white, and blue.
I know. You see mine? I'm starting to yeah. Yeah, so mine is the white. So
Well, I really don't have much to contribute, but and I didn't want you to be on here all by yourself. So we're gonna listen. We're gonna listen to the people so they can, send in their contributions and read their comments. And it's a discussion that we all need to start having. Are we really, really independent as a nation? Are we really, really independent? And what is the meaning of independence to an individual? When somebody say, "Oh, I have my independence," what does that mean? First of all, we have to define that. You have to understand the meaning of being independent. As an individual, as a corporate body, what does independence mean to you? So, I don't know how far you are into the show, and I don't want to cut you off. So just go ahead and.
It's time. I think I've done the introduction. I've done everything. I play a video that talk about the importance of where we are and what is being done to keep Africa where it is. So I think it's time to hear from somebody. So from your perspective, maybe I'll ask you on the analogy that I made. As a parent, you have children, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have children and at some point you are looking for that child to leave your home and say, hey, they are independent, they will go on their own, right? Okay. So when that happens, at least you know that as a parent, you are free in a little bit. And that child would not be coming to you, say, oh, I want to put food on my table today. Mom, can you buy me food to put on my table? Right? You won't be expecting that kind of thing, right?
No.
So looking at it from the country perspective, you have a country and you're supposed to be independent, and every decision you have to make, you are looking up to this uncle of yours, right, to help you make that decision. Is that really independent, man?
First of all, before I can trust my child with this car, I have to make sure that he or she goes through a process. And in order for me as a parent to decide that yes, my child is ready, they have to go through, do the driving classes. You have to do the road test driving, and you finally have to do your road test to get your first you do your permit, and you have 6 months to a year to learn on that permit. And then when I feel like you are ready to obtain a driver license, then we go and do the road test to get your driver license. And they have certain people that are trained to put you in that car for them to put you on the road. And once you follow all of the rules and laws and regulations, and you pass your test, then they are comfortable now to give you a driver license. Now, that is the steps that we have to go through, with that when it comes to the driver license. As far as a nation, you can declare yourself independent when, once again, I'm sure a lot of people have alluded to it, that every time there's a decision that needs to be made, you have to go to your parent, or you have to have a handout to make that decision. So how independent are you? Are you mentally independent? Can we trust you to make a decision that would be effective across the nation? So we can, we are 174 years, so in about 2 weeks. But yet, every time there's a crisis, we always try to look for a cure. Instead of us looking for a preventative measure and putting things into place so we don't have to always try to look for a cure, we are always trying to wait until last minute of time. So I don't consider us as 100% independent as a Liberia. So let me just keep it in Liberia, okay? Because there are other African nations that are doing wonderful. And this is not in any way to bring down our Liberians that are doing great in the country or across the country. But this is a national issue that we need to talk about. And what does independency mean? as a nation, what do we as individuals need to do to celebrate this independence that we all for every year to celebrate? You know, so you can't keep my child, cannot keep, like right now, my son is driving. So that takes away a burden from me.
Yeah.
So when you are independent, it takes away burdens from people that you once used to reach out to. That's why independence, that's some of the reasons that we declare ourselves to be independent.
Yeah.
So you can't say I'm independent, but yet you always coming to mommy and daddy to make a decision. You always coming to mommy and daddy for money to buy gas. You always coming to mommy and daddy for money to pay your rent. I don't consider you independent. You might as well just come and live home. You know, if I'm going to continue to be doing all of that for you, you might as well. I don't think that you are ready yet to be on your own. Yes.
Yeah. And you said 174 years, right? So the normal age for a child to leave home is 18, where they themselves say, when I turn 18, I'm going to get my own apartment. I'm going to do my own thing, right? This African countries, all of us were fighting for independence. We need our independence. We need our independence. We got our independence. Liberia will be 174 years. But yet still, I know you and I had this conversation privately, and we're talking about the healthcare issue that is happening right now, right? And you have a country that have a crisis on hand right now, and you have a health ministry. I think the health ministry should lead that charge, right? To say, hey, I'm going to make sure I count everybody right now, start getting data to know how many people are being infected by coronavirus, which part of the country is more impacted, where is impacted the most, and then what resources we need, right? For us to start fighting to solve those problems in those key areas, right? But when we don't have a system that is trying to find those answers, then you and myself jump out and say, oh, Liberia have coronavirus crisis, let's go and dump our aid, right? Are we really helping our country to be dependent or independent? You understand? Are we helping our country to be independent? I understand our family will be suffering, but if our own government that is supposed to be independent, people that are making a decision, people that are getting $1 million in, that are signing those concession agreements, they are the one that sit on the table and say, hey, we have this property, we want you to buy it. They are the one that are making the decision. And if they are not taking the charge, and you and I here have to go and take the charge to start going to Sony Wen to distribute hygiene and stuff, then our country is really in a tough spot, you know. And in order for us to be independent as a parent, sometimes you have to walk away, right? You have to walk away from your child and say, I'm not going to give you $5 anymore. So that's why I'm calling on us Liberians and say, hey, at some point we need to walk away and not give our children, right? Or give our mom and pa constantly, we shouldn't feed them constantly, because when we keep feeding them constantly, they're no longer dependent. They no longer, and they are dependent on us. So looking at independence again, let's grab one comment here and see where we can, you and myself can chew this comment up together. Let's see. I'm going to pick one randomly, right? Mr. Pope says, the West will not give an African miner visa to come to the West to trade his diamond, but Westerners can come to Africa without visa restrictions and buy diamonds for cheap, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So these are things, right? When I say independent, when I was defining the show, when you don't decide how much you sell your resources, right? You're a businesswoman and you go to the market, and then your customer come and say, hey, even though you're selling this thing's supposed to be $10, I don't want it for $10. I'll give you $1 because I drove here, right? And I'm a more value customer, you need to sell to me because I have more value. So you don't need to sell your product to me $10. I don't care whether you're not going to make profit or not. And that's what basically the West is doing to Africa. And this statement right here, I would like your input. If you and I in Liberia, right, we have diamond to sell, I cannot come to America to just say I'm going to go down dollars and say I open something and start selling my diamond, right? They won't allow me, even with permit, to get permit to come to the US to sell diamond. I don't know how easy that process is, right? But a white person or a Westerner, I mean, then I say white, a Westerner can leave from here, go to Liberia, they can dig diamond, or Chinese can come to Liberia, dig diamond, dig gold and take it out of there, go and sell it, recreate a product and bring it to Liberia and sell it to us. Do you think as a country, if we are to be independent, do you think these are some of the things that we should start focusing on, managing on our own?
But honest, first of all, I think you mentioned that, like, first of all, in order for you to be declared independent, you have to, first of all, have the mindset to be independent. You have to know what you want. Okay. You have to put a value on yourself.
Yeah. You
have to love yourself. You can't keep falling down for everything that comes. And try to compromise what you stand for. So that's one thing that we Liberians need to do. We have to really value who we are, in order for us to enjoy this, because we can't say we are independent. I'm sorry, I'm just getting a call here. We can't say we're independent, but then yet we looking for the next quick way to make money. Because right there, that's a quick way to make money. You're selling yourself cheap.
Yeah.
By use this phone interrupted my volume, so I don't know if you can hear me.
No, I say you're fine. We can hear you.
Okay, good. So by you doing these things, like sometimes I do have a problem with that we would let other nations, other nationality come into Liberia and get something so, for cheap, for free, but then you don't have the same things when you go to other people's country. For example, Ghana. For example, you go to Nigeria. You can't just purchase land in Nigeria. You can't just purchase land in Ghana if you are not a Ghanaian. If you are not a Nigerian. Everybody fly to China to purchase goods. You can't go to China and just purchase goods like that. You have to have some type of contact in China. And the reason why, because these people have their system already built.
Yeah.
It is about the system. If we put the system into place that will work for every Liberian, we will not have to go in the corner to start taking bribes. Or we will have to always try to go out there looking for peanuts. As an organization that we have here in the diaspora world, the Liberian nurses, we do work with facilities. So we go into these facilities and ask them, what is it that you need? Because we're not going to be here with you for the rest of our lives, right?
Yeah.
We teach you how to fish. We just don't give you the fish. And that's why Liberia needs to know that we cannot continue to ask people for fish. We have to learn how to fish ourselves.
Yeah.
To declare ourselves independent, for people to value us, for people to also come and look up to us. I was thinking about it the last time. When will Liberia lend a helping hand to people? I see, if I may be wrong, if Liberia has ever been in a position to, that I know back in the days, Ghana used to depend on us for certain things. But Liberia used to be a nation that people used to come to for things, for their daily bread. What happened? We compromise who we are. We compromise our value. We got so lazy. Like you said, the needs are there. There will be the poor. The poor people are always there. The poor people will always be there. The Bible says that until Jesus Christ comes, there will always be poor people.
Yeah.
And it's gonna stop me if you need to, but it's a little bit kind of getting to me lately when I see people make such a big deal when people in Liberia try to do something for their family. If you're a lawmaker or somebody, let's say for a lawmaker trying to do something for his or her wife, or their spouse, and it become a news. We have important things to think about.
Yeah.
And the reason why that is because 100% of our people, the only thing government is the answer to everything.
Yeah. Well, hold on.
So we have to free our mind from that the government is not the answer to our daily bread. And we need to invite the private institutions to come in so people can actually be independent, so they can be completely 100% dependent on the government for everything.
Yeah, hold that thought right there. Thank you. I think those are excellent points. I have a caller online. Hello, caller. Your name and where you calling from? Welcome to Liberia Shall Rise.
Yeah, hi. This is Dwight Porter. I'm calling from Texas.
Mr. Port, welcome to the show. I see all your comment. I couldn't read too much. I'm a slow reader, so I'm glad you can call on. Thank you.
Yes, thanks for having. We met about close to 5 months ago in Dallas. So I'm in Houston.
I know.
Yeah,
Welcome to the show,
yeah,
brother.
thanks for the platform. Glad to be on just to add my little input into the discussion at hand. Anyways, I would just dive deep into the independent part of the conversation. I've always said that I think Liberia, our forefathers rushed into this independence, which we have waited for 100 years later. Maybe 1947 would have been a good time. July 26, 1947. Because one key point, when you mention about raising kids at home, Liberia wasn't ready for their independence when they just threw their hands out and said, "Oh, I think you can be on your own." I mean, the world in itself was defining itself. Germany, America, and the higher powers too were going through their struggles, and here we are giving a country who could define their own flag or the language they wanted to keep, and lose their independence and say, "Oh, we're independent in 1847." What did we have at the time? The population of Liberia, I doubt it was even 1 million. But yet we had a country independent and was still relying on the West. When you want to define a country as independent, meaning that country can sustain itself based on its GDP and GNP. At the time, how many people in that country knew about GDP or GNP? No one. We were still defining our way. So the West did us wrong. And I think the reason they did the wrong to us, they didn't want to carry the full responsibility of nurturing this group of people that they have sent back to Africa, and the people that they have enslaved or came and battled and took them into slavery. They didn't want that burden, so they just came out there and said, "Okay, there's a pole over there, there's a building, there's 2 huts over there. Oh, okay, you guys can just fend on your own." And that's where the mistake happened. And our forefathers then did not realize that. They just liked the name that it was a new country and it was a republic, and they could just run helter-skelter. Think about it. Like I always tell people, I'm from both spectrum of Liberia, the native and the Americo-Liberian, but I'm smack right in between the natives. How do you tell me you bring about 50,000 people from America and dump them into a country that have people who had their own doctrine and their own belief, and then you walk away and say you have an independent country? That's where it went wrong. So now we come down to the resource of the country. I understand the guy video you play. I have to get that video from you and watch it. But what he's doing here, Dr. Positive, this is what you, Caroline, and I, and the rest of the Liberians know, and Africans know, that we've been exploited by for decades. This is not new.
No,
I understand he's trying to bring this to the light because we have more progressive Africans coming out, embarking. But what is he doing? What is the United Nations doing? Our presidents and our head of states from these different African countries come to the United States and they thank the UNGA. When are they going to start putting all these policies and say, look, we understand you're dumping $200 billion into Africa, but wait a second here. Where are the opportunities? Our resources are being stolen from us. Look at the ratio, 45-1. These people extract 45% of our resources, and we get literally 1% back. Yeah. And I will bring you back to the deal that we struck in 1936 for this Firestone plantation. Tell me, and your viewers out there, why did we go to a table and sign a deal for $1 million for 100 years, whether it is true or not? I don't know. I got to read the facts on that. That we agreed to Firestone to pay us $1 million, and it took over so Sarah had to grow us. Now look, so I don't even need that guy to tell me that. I can just look. Yeah. The price of an average tire on the world market is about $125. Right? Yeah. That's one tire. So you're telling me now that one tire can pay a worker in the sale from one tire on the world market can pay a worker for 6 months in Liberia.
Wow.
Do we need a lecturer to tell us that? No. We got to come to the table and say, look, we struck this deal because you guys had our hands tied. I understand Ellen did our part. But this is a global thing.
Yeah.
You cannot sell a tire on the world market for $1.5 and pay the man who's making the rubber or who's manufacturing or tapping the rubber, and you pay him $27 still? For the last how many years have we been getting the paying our tap person for in Firestone? $27 in a bag of rice. So that means Firestone just needs to sell maybe 1,000 tires, and they can pay the whole plantation for a year.
Yeah, and
just
to add to your point, though, I did a show once, and I talked about Firestone in there. Firestone is over $1 billion, right, in resources. They are like, I don't know how many $1 billion they are as a country for their net worth, right, for their company as a net worth. But Liberia, their annual budget, we would produce the rubber. We will grow the rubber. Our GDP is less than 500. It's like 500 million, right? But Firestone, 500 million. But Firestone is in our country. They have one of the largest rubber plantation in the world. Their company is $1 billion company. Their income is billions of dollars a year. So if I were to negotiate in our country, I would even say 1% of every sale of your tire should come to Liberia for the land. You know, those kind of deals will be something that will say somebody mean well for their country. But again, that's why sometimes we talk about Ellen. I said, did she really finish her degree in economics? Does she understand economics when she graduated, you know, and stuff like that? Because if I was an economics student sitting at the table with Firestone to renegotiate our contract, we had signed a contract for hundreds of years, and this contract came up to be renewed. I would have said, Firestone, I understand you have done your best for Liberia, but these are the wrongs that we need to right. 2% of the tire sale of Firestone need to come to Liberia, or you guys need to create a manufacturing company in Liberia where we manufacture tires that will then go to sell tire in Liberia. If you can give us that 1% of your gross sale, right? Something like that, and publicize it, you know.
You see.
Go ahead.
Can I come in real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
So you see, that's where we go back again to valuing. You know, like you have to love yourself, you have to value yourself. So, and you have to want your country to be better. Like the quarter was saying, when I agree with him when he said that he doesn't think that we were ready to be an independent nation. So the question goes back: were we ready to be an independent nation? Did we cross our T's and dot our I's? Even other nations had war. They had issues in their country. For example, Rwanda had issues. Nigeria have problem. Ghana have problem. But yet and still, these countries are rising. These countries, there's a lot of good things that's happening in those countries. So the thing about it is, it's not a question if we were ready to be an independent nation. The question is our leaders not putting strict laws into place. And the laws that they have in place right now, they are not following the laws. So the citizens themselves too are not following the laws. So if you want to be independent, you have to put laws down that will benefit your people. Number one, why is there so much US on the streets of Monrovia than Liberian dollar? That's something we have to look into. Not everybody in Liberia work and make US dollars. US dollars is not printed in Liberia. So the little child that goes to the market to sell her milk candy or his milk candy has Liberian dollar, and then he or she goes to the market to purchase these things. And our own Liberians are refusing to take this Liberian dollar. Everybody in Liberia now wants to, handle US dollars. Do we print US dollars in our country? No, we don't. So again, it goes back to valuing ourselves and putting a price on ourselves and loving our country. It is not the matter of what if we were ready for independence. No, the matter is putting laws into place, and we are abiding by that laws, putting the system, putting the structure into place. We do have those laws, but we need to learn how to implement it.
Mr. Port, that's back to you. So you heard Ms. Wallow point, right?
Yeah, I did, and I was and I was coming back to when you talk about manufacturing, and yeah, we are. We at the time I knew that we were the second largest manufacturer of rubber next to Madagascar. I think the last I checked, we are like ranked 10th. And what did we get for those many years? We don't even have a condom factory. We don't even have a latex glove factory, plastic bag factory. So yeah, we come back to what I said, that we weren't prepared for independence. Had we waited until 1947, guess what? We would have had people with innovation. People would have been trained. We can come now to Ghana, yeah, they went through their struggles and finally they say, hey, I think we can make it on our own. But guess what? The British have already stayed in that country. Kenya, the British stayed there. Senegal, the French stayed there. Ivory Coast, the French lived there and developed those countries. So they already had the pillars in place.
So
they were like, okay,
so
the pillars are in place, we can leave you guys. I think you guys can finish the building. But Liberia, what did we have? 1822, 1847, there wasn't even one brick on the ground. There wasn't even a foundation. There were huts and visions that the American Liberians decided to come and bring it.
Mr. Port, I get your point. So I think Prince here want to speak on your point. I'm going to bring him on shortly. So Prince, I just send you the link. You can come on to talk to Mr. Port, because Prince is saying that you are missing the point on independence, the fact that we got our independence on our own. It was earlier, but he doesn't think that was a problem. The problem might lie into how things were administered. And again, we talk about places like Guinea.
But if you think that there was a problem on the administration, why do you think there was a problem on administration? Because these people did not have the know-how.
Yeah. And again, having let's look at it in the analogy of having children, right? Sometimes you might have a child, you might have children, and that child might basically maybe lose both parents, right? It doesn't mean that child will turn out to be bad, right? The child might not have no parent in their life at all. It doesn't mean that child will turn out bad. The thing is that child willingness to learn and become somebody, right? That child willingness to want to do something.
Hiccup. And that is our hiccup. That is our
but then you see again.
To learn. We fail to evolve. We fail to grow on what has been built.
So it goes back to.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So it goes back to not always wanting to get. Again, we have to, as Liberians, we have been given the opportunity. We did cry for freedom. Freedom was given to us. It was left with us to, decide on what we want to do with that freedom. Well, for example, a lot of us grew up on the farm, and there's a season for brushing the farm, there's a season for planting, and there are seasons for harvesting the farm. So we cannot always be in the season of planting. We need to learn now to harvest. We have all of the tools as Liberians that we need to really be an independent nation. We have the rubber, we have the diamonds, we have the timber, we have copper, we have, the natural resources that we have in our country, and we are less than 5 million people. The resources we have can go across the 15 counties. First of all, we need to have each of these counties to stay independently on their own. And the reason why I was thinking about this the last time, you see, in America, the government does not control everything. That is the mistake the Africans made. The Africans are making, and that is the mistake Liberia is making. So this is what it is. How can you, Ministry of Health, since I'm in the health, let me go there. As a healthcare practitioner or as a healthcare worker, you have nurses or doctors that are supposed to be working in Nima County or Grand Gile. But the ministry will hire those people to go work in these facilities. Why can you empower those counties to have their own independent structure system, that they will hire their own nurses, their own doctors to go and work to these hospitals and clinics in that county? That nurses and doctors have to be hired by the Ministry of Health before you can have a job. That is where the system is broken. Because guess what? This sister or doctor or whatever that you hire is not going to see their job like this is a job. Don't get me wrong. There are many nurses and doctors that take their job seriously. But if you have to depend on Monrovia to hire somebody to go to a Grand Gile to work, even for the clinic to hire a janitor, the clinic is not empowered to hire a janitor. The janitor has to be hired by the Ministry of Health. That is the problem.
Yeah.
That is where the problem is coming from. The government tries to control everything. That's why we are not independent. If the government just allow people to be independent and empower these people to be independent, then we will enjoy the independence that we want to enjoy. I will stop there for now. But it's not a matter of if we are ready or if we were ready. Yes, we were ready. Yes, we do have it should be even an honor for us to be independent. You don't want to be on your I don't want to be in my dad's house for the rest of my life. No. For example, when I left my daddy's house, I didn't know everything, but I learned along the way.
You kept
so that's what we need to do. He trusted me to learn to drive, so I don't have to go back to him to be driving me around. And I purpose in my mind that I have to do this to become better.
All right, Miss Waller, thank you. See, I think you are ready for this show more than I was, so thank you for that great point. But I have Prince on here, so I'm going to let him say something, then maybe you can come back in and together we all can wrap this thing up, because this is an important topic, folks. Joining us, thank you for joining Liberia Shall Rise. This topic is independence, its importance in the rise of Liberia. So this is what we are discussing. So if you're just joining us, this is what we are discussing. I have Prince here calling all the way from Johnson City, Tennessee. But welcome to the show, Miss Prince, your point. Go ahead. I see you made some comments here, and I know you and Paul coming to go into a dialogue here. Let's see what you have. Welcome to the show. We can't hear you, Prince. You are probably. I can't. Hold on. Oh, you are muted. You are muted. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I did mute myself in order to allow to diffuse the background noise. But thank you very much, Dr. Keller, and thank you very much, my dear sister. And it's a pleasure to be in your midst and to be on this this very, very incredible show. And I do agree with you that Liberia shall rise again. And I say this to say that because of the privilege for me to have understood to sit with a very, very, very wise old man during the course of the Liberian Civil War. And he imparted into me some intricate understanding of the Liberia historical detail that was orally told to me that is not today in the history in our academic curriculums, so our children can learn about it. And Mr. Porter, I have no this is no disregard. I do respect your perspective, and I think, as I said, that I see you, like many other Liberians, struggling with the idea, the notion to wrap your head around the notion that this nation is as great as it is in terms of natural resources, in terms of human resources, will continue to be struggling as it is, and then to get it right, to get it right. And I think that I differ with you on the issue when you said that Liberia prematurely declared independence. I understand from the perspective you're coming from, because it probably that notion will probably be based on either opinion or deficit of the fact of the historical context of how Liberia became the nation it is today. And I would like to, I hope we had time, or perhaps we can establish a time enough for us to go through this, to share with you on the privilege level the information that I want you, or most Liberians, to know. Right after the Civil War, right during the Civil War, the heat of the Civil War, I was seeking refuge and running away from the rebel incursion. I was born in Dorostan, Bhutan, Ravensfield, lived in Firestone. I came to Monrovia. I was in 72nd, and then I moved on the Benson Street, and I sought refuge with one of our family friends. His name is Joseph. I would just, because of confidentiality and family, I would just call him Uncle Con Joseph. Con Joseph. That's how he was known. We stayed with him, seeking refuge at the time, and it was a critical time. Everybody was struggling to survive, and he was sick because he was in advanced age. I think at the time he was about 72 years old or so, and the war having an effect on him, and he was struggling. He was constantly ill, and I was there with him, taking care of him. I was like a son to him, and so he sat me down one time, and he's a big powerful, influential person within the Masonic craft. In fact, the reason he's built his house, what it is, the house is just a walking distance from the Masonic temple. He lived just right down on Benson Street up the hill. The reason he lived in that strategic location, because he was like the grand orator, the one who keeps the story, who keep the record of the Masonic. Am I still on with you guys?
Yeah, you. Prince, we're hearing you. We're actually hearing you, but I just wanted to make you the focus. That's all. We're still hearing you, so you just went off.
I think he got cut off. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I just made him the focus because I wanted him to land his point of view. But Prince, we almost out of time, so come back and wrap up, land your point so we can finish the show up. But Mr. Poe, one or two more words on this. Like I said, this is a big topic. Tomorrow we'll be discussing patriotism. So I hope you guys can join us as we continue this segment on independence and the importance in Liberia. So one or two more points you can land, and then we can wrap up here. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thanks. And I know a lot of people will have counterpoints or counter argument to me saying 100 years would have been better. If we can look at in historical context, like the Industrial Revolution, we were like, when the Industrial Revolution happened, it had just in the 1840s. So 7 years later, we got an African country with their independence, where light was not even on that side of the continent. And our so-called mother went through their industrial revolution between 1820 to the 1870s. So mind you, none of these things were even brought to Liberia based on the industrial revolution. So when I bring to the point of us saying that it was too early for our independence, it just ties into what you said, that if you're at home and you're raising kids and you want them to go on their own, you will give them the tools, right?
Yeah.
America only gave us the money. And until today, America still does the same thing. When we have problems, when we have crisis, all they do is throw the money. It was just recently during the Obama years when we had Ebola that he was able to send manpower. Point, you guys, including Prince, let him point to me one structure that the U.S. have built from the ground up over the last 40 years or 30 years or 20 years or 10 years. Everything they do, they give the money. And that's all they've been doing since 1847. Oh, you guys want it? Okay, take 200 million. How that money is spent, it comes back to what you and Caroline said. Before our children leave home, we will teach them money management and money sense to save and do the little with whatever resources they get. Those are the missing piece that Liberia did not have. Forget about the landmass, forget about the 40,000 square miles that we have as ours. Until today, I bet you Liberians have not lived on even 15,000 square miles in our country. We still a country that have almost close to 20 miles of 20,000 miles, 20,000 square miles that no human person has touched. So that still tells us that our country, we still have greater opportunity to enjoy the resources and the wealth of that country. But Doc, tell me, who are the geologists now in Liberia? Do we have anybody going to school? Recently, 2 years ago, I heard they were talking about the Wologisi swap with the Chinese. Do we know what we have under that mountain? Because guess what? These people that are there, and it comes back to you and Caroline's point that when you raise your children, they will understand the meaning of pressure. It's like your son leaving the home, and you gave him say, okay, son, take this $10,000 to start your life. That's what our mountain should mean to this generation. Because you know what? The ancestors protected mountain. And they said, what's underneath there is for generations to come. But guess what? It's like the son that you gave the $10,000 to, or my child that I gave the $10,000 to. Oh, you know what? There, I'll blow it up. And that's what they wanted to do to that mountain. So again, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They weren't prepared. America as it stands now, if you fly over Portland, Oregon, if you see the amount of timbers and trees that they have over there, it's like about the size of Montserrado or Montserrado County. But do they touch it? No. What are they doing? They come into Africa and come into us and cutting ours down. They're preserving theirs.
Yeah.
It comes now again to what I say. We were nurtured. If we were nurtured enough, nobody would. I was in Toby 2-3 years ago, visiting my grandma before she passed. Peace be to her ashes. Do you know Liberians are cutting down trees that are 50, 60, 20, 25 years old trees? And do you think they are planting trees back?
No.
They're not planting. So I asked the guys that were cutting down the trees, I said, but you're coming all around here and cutting these trees down. Are you planting any more trees? Oh no, but we're using it for coal. Nobody taught our people. Or even if they did, they forgot it. The generation never passed it down. That's why when it rains from Nima County, it switched into Moro in less than 45 minutes. Because guess what? Our vegetation is all gone.
Yeah.
But you know, it's a great topic, and I know people will have counter arguments and counterpoints to what I'm saying. But I am just saying, people, I'm not blaming the generation in the past because yeah, they didn't. What did they know? You know, they're like, oh, we got a free country. We'll be our own people. We'll be our own president, and that's fine. But still, we still have to come back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
What do we want to be as an independent country? The whole country lives on remittance.
Yeah.
Think about it. The whole country, huh? If today, as I speak, since you've been on here, there have been 100 Liberians that have sent money to Liberia in a short period of time that you've been on here for 2 hours.
I'm waiting to send my DJ. I'm waiting to send my DJ. I have it in my phone right now. I have to share with somebody. So,
exactly.
Mr.
No, so tell me.
Go ahead.
Is that independence? No, that's dependency. Tolbert said he wanted to liberate Liberians from ignorance, disease, and poverty. In 40 years, it never happened since he died. And here we are now. Can I add one more piece to that triangle he wanted to eradicate and it didn't happen? Dependency. So no, we are not an independent nation. We're still a dependent nation. Because guess what? As Caroline alluded to, we're still waiting for America now to send vaccine for us. We're still waiting for them to send masks for us. Our president still had to go to France to go beg for $23 million and for gloves and for testing kits. So we're not independent. So
thank you so much for those salient points. Like I said, there's this topic was to kind of enlighten our people, to bring up people thought on this idea. So I think your point is salient. There's no right and wrong
but
here.
You know what? You know what?
You got
the possibly I will allow Prince to go ahead and finish because I got plenty response for my friend.
Okay, so Lord, I should not finishing just now. All right, Prince, go ahead. Prince, go ahead. I think we can push it a little bit, but go ahead.
Well, I think we have time deficit, so we will try to be economical with our ideas and our contribution.
Just go ahead. Just go ahead.
Yeah, and Dr. Porter, I do highly appreciate you, and your perspective is really valuable to the discussion, and I think it's essential to see things from different perspectives at times. You know, and my dear sister, I'm waiting, and I will be very honored to be able to answer some questions and address some issues that you may have wanting to discuss with me. Thank you, Dr. Keller, for also allowing me to be on here. And as I said, that the information that I have is very vast. It comes over a period of 174 years. So for us to discuss it in 74 minutes,
it's not
be very difficult, but we will try our best to reduce it to the only reason I like to give detail, because we Liberian people, whenever you try to communicate to us, if it's not in detail, we got a way to run with it and give it wings and give it and tails and tell stories about it. So I often like to be detailed about what I say, so that tomorrow it cannot be missing in translation, because I'm a poor global Lawman boy. So when I speak English, my English often is not too correct. My subject and verb don't always agree. So
I'm right there with you, brother.
So in my experience, when my uncle Con Joseph told me about Liberia.
You were talking about this woman that was in the Masonic temple.
My uncle Con Joseph was an orator within a Masonic craft and also a master mason. So by the time he thought he was dying because a critical illness, so traditionally they usually have somebody who do apprenticeship and pass information or vast knowledge to. So I sat with him. He told me for hours and days. He talked about the Masonic craft, how it works, the temple. He talked about the history of Liberia, how Liberia was established. He went on and on. He told me a whole vast, and I'm writing those things thank God, I got a very good memory. I remember things very, very clearly for years, for a long time. So I'm writing those things down, keeping it also as a record for my own self. But Liberia, as the nation you know is now as Liberia, has been around for a long time. 1819, 1820, 1821, 1822. The idea of Liberia was conceived through a divine providence. Two pastor, two minister had a vision, and God may have spoken to them and told them that they needed to go back to Africa. Something similar on the line of the children of Israel returning to Canaan, the land of Canaan. So when they got that vision, they went they tried to into those who were fighting for emancipation of their brothers from slavery, and some of those people are ideas and jumps quickly just price. So
Prince, you're breaking up a little bit. I don't know why you're breaking up a little bit. Yeah, just
they came to Africa. And that nation was formed, the American Colonization Society. Now, I want Mr. Porter to know that the intention of the American Colonization Society, a black free nation in Africa, that was never their intention. They happened because one of the things here that a black person is incapable or not civilized to the point that they can govern themselves. In Haiti, the blacks in Haiti was standing up to against that philosophy, and the who were benefiting from wanted to
closer to your earphone or what, but your voice keep going in and out. I think
let me see if I can get off my Bluetooth headphone, maybe go directly.
It's better where you are now. No, it's better where you are now, I think. But yeah.
So the ACS idea was to separate those who was the free slaves from here, and put a distance between them and those who were still in slavery here. And the intention was never to establish a nation called Liberia. But that nation was conceived by divine providence through men of God who understood and needed, who God has spoken to form that nation in Africa that will be a light, a beacon of light to the dark continent of Africa. That's why we're having Liberia, as you know it today. If you look at the flag of Liberia, was never a star. It was a cross within a blue field. And the intention, Liberia, you know it today, was not intended to be called Liberia. It was intended to be called Zion in Africa. The capital city was intended to be called Christopolis, which means a city of Christ. And Monrovia was called Christopolis before. It was never Monrovia. And the flag today you see today has never been the flag. That was not the original flag. But in the midst of these things, as the Bible says that whenever a man sow a seed, Jesus gave a parable. The evil man went and sowed a seed among the seed. So in that time, in our establishment, there was very different influx of African that was brought from all other places, that the Caribbean, not only America, but not only from Maryland, not only from what you call from Maryland in America, not only from what you call it, what the place right here, man, Georgia, not only Georgia, but also brought from the Caribbean too. There were other African that came from the Caribbean that were brought to Liberia, and some of those that were free and from Congo was brought to Liberia. So the mixture of all these things formed today the new Liberia we know today. But the conception of the old Liberia was intended to be a Christian nation, one of the first Christian nations in Africa.
And Prince,
right. Now jump forward again. Let's jump forward to 1847.
Mm-hmm.
Now 1847, the reason as to why Liberia was compared to declare independent as we know it today, was because the encroachment of the British and the French on its territory. when Liberia took his case to the to England, England contention was Liberia was not a separate nation. Liberia was a colony. I mean, in fact, not even a colony, but just a annexation of land in Africa. So how Liberia, in order to stand within the proper jurisdiction, the legal jurisdiction, Liberia declared independent in 1847, but Liberia was established in 1822 officially. But it declared independent. In that process of declaration, then that's when the transformation came and Liberia started to head the different paths. So those who had influences and who were against, even in the American Constitutional Society, the American Constitutional Society were against the idea of Liberia declaring independent because of this same slavery thing.
Prince, I want you to come to the topic. I get the historical perspective, and thank you for some people that don't understand. And I think this is good.
Now the topic here as it stands is about whether Liberia is independent or Liberia is not independent.
Yeah,
and I'm glad that you put forward. I'm glad that you put forward. I'm glad that you put forward the video of that guy explaining to us our fundamental and intricate problem, not only with Liberia, with Africa, and that rests within the framework of we African as a whole. I would possibly maybe is how we're genetically constructed, or how we are socially or engineered, or how our mentality is, or probably based on our culture. But we African are one of the race of people that do not, they cannot for some reason function together as a collective group of people in terms of collective in terms of division. We always function by segregation. That's why you see in the United States here, the GIO organization and better than the Liberian organization. You go to the Zulu organization.
You break up again,
or would do.
Yeah, Paul. Yeah, Paul, go.
Okay.
We still.
No, I think Prince is still on.
Yeah, we still here.
So the problem is a we can macro it to that of Liberia, and the same thing that now the guy is clearly telling you, if we African can come and respect our, do whatever it takes to advance their race, they will do whatever it takes. As much as they bring the cross of Jesus to you and tell you that Jesus is the Lord and Savior, you're praying and waiting for him to come. The white man is not waiting for Jesus. The white man advance.
We're losing your
audio. I'm still having a problem, right?
Yeah, you can switch.
I will get off the Bluetooth and go direct, okay?
Yeah. So let's try to wrap up. I don't want to cut you off because your points you're making are great, but just try to wrap it up so that Caroline.
Yeah. You hear me better now? Are you hearing me better now?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it was my Bluetooth. So as much as we will look at these things holistically, we can look at it from the singularly in case of reference to Liberia. The problem is we African, we have to change our mind. We have to focus on ourselves as a race of people, and we have to do all we can to advance our race. Okay, I will stop there until my sister is so eager and anxious to ask people. I can tell from her expression. So I will stop there, and we'll allow other cross session discussion, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, and I think you raised some key points in that video. Like I said, hopefully.
Yeah, I learned a few points after.
Yeah. Let's Caroline say something, then you can come in, then we will wrap up here because
we'll wrap it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, Caroline.
No, that's okay. Let our caller go ahead. We'll be ending in about 10-15 minutes. We don't want to make it too long, so people can come back and watch it and get the point. But so definitely we will like to have Prince back because we need the education of our foundation. So maybe we can value what we have. But so go ahead, caller.
Paul, go ahead and you can just wrap up. Thank you so much for staying on. I didn't mean to. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, that's fine. And I want to, clearly express thanks to Prince for coming on to bring in the historical context of where we are as a people. But let's not forget also that the ACS and when the abolition of slavery was going on here, it was also intended to find a place for black people to go so they don't overpower them here in the United States. That's for another segment. And also, he brought about religion. Mm-hmm. And I know it will be another topic. I believe, I'm a Christian. But at a certain point, too, I want to know what my people in my mom's village or dad's village or wherever, what were they praying to before Christianity arrived? Mm.
So I can tell you that my grandmother taught me vastly about that.
Bring another big discussion up because I want to know. I want to know before Christianity arrived in Africa, what were my great grandparents praying to? That when we talk about mindset, this is where mindset originated. Yeah. That we're able to evolve out of something that you believed in. Like they always use the phrase, the white man came and gave the Bible and took our resources. Is that what happened? We don't know.
But
is that what mindset started?
You see, nobody can take anything from you unless you allow them to. And for so long, Liberians, we have sat there and allowed people to come and take what rightfully belongs to us. So for 174 years, I'm sorry to cut you off. For 174 years, let's get back to, are we ready free? Yes, we are. Physically, we are free. Mentally, we are not because we continue to devalue ourselves. Yeah. We continue to look down on ourselves. So until we start, because we can go to the history, we can, and the history is good. If you really want to know the root causes of things, go to it, understand it, but for how long? How long are we going to continue to be taught something that we already know? It is left with us Liberians to implement these things in our daily lives. For example, me, I just want to be common for the common person to hear me. Liberians living in Liberia, don't wait for Caroline or for the government to come sweep your yard. It does not take rocket science for that. Don't wait for the government to tell you or send your children to school before you do. Don't wait for the government. Don't go to work for 3, 4, 5 months when the government is not paying you. Why are you still going to the office? You must value yourself. You must take a stand. So that's where we're coming from with this independent stuff. We are not independent again. I will go back to the reason why we have not totally enjoyed this independence is because our government tried to control everything. So our leaders need to free us from controlling us. In a sense, they cannot control everything that we do. You can't hire people to go work in the supermarket and expect things to be right. Then why did you hire an administrator? Why is there an administrator in the hospital? So what power does he or she has to discipline the employees when they are not doing right?
Ms. Caroline, thank you for that point. I'm going to be doing a series on the functions of government. I would like to bring you on for that too, because for example, Texas is an autonomous state on its own. Texas doesn't need Washington to make decisions on how to print driver license, on how to do things like that. So we have a lot of topics that just came out of this discussion. So I'm just going to like to wrap this up because I didn't even look at the time. We actually 2 hours in this, and that's not that the positive right there. I usually like to start at least at 1:30. So I'm going to ask Port first. Do you think Liberia is independent or is Liberia a autonomous nation, or is Liberia a dependent state? So yes, no, or just 1 or 2 minutes, stay your point, and then I'll give it to Prince, and then Caroline, then we end the show. So put to you, what do you think Liberia is independent?
When we look at the word independent, I would say no, we aren't independent. We are not an independent country. I know it's going to ruffle some feathers.
That's fine.
I'm just being. You know, I'm the kind of person I don't go by public opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I speak to the crux of the matter. And yeah, we are independent. If we were independent, our president wouldn't have been flying on a jet in the middle of a crisis to go and get 43,000 masks or $3 million or test kits. We will have our covers that we can open our bank vault and order these things, or have a factory or lipstick factory right now manufacturing masks and test kits. But we don't. And every little crisis that happens in Liberia, guess what? Caroline is sending texts to people.
I know, right?
I'm on Facebook sending texts to people. Oh, come and donate. Every little crisis. If it rains heavily in that country, oh, they fight bus over here in Cuba.
Then the Liberian Nursing Association, coming to us, right?
See what? I can send you text message right now for contribution just for that.
An important point that Caroline mentioned. We're frowning on foreigners, or we're frowning on the West coming into Liberia and taking our resources. Do you know in Buffalo County, there are Ghanaians there that are mining and taking our resources and beating up citizens of Buffalo. They're literally taking over the county. So this thing of exploitation is not just happening from the Westerners, it's happening from our neighbors. Because why? Our people are they are not physically independent. I'll give you a quick story before I wrap up here. Growing up, my uncle who raised me was from Bomi. And we always used to say, oh, Dama in Bomi, Dama. So one time I went up there and we drove up and went to the farm, and I I see all these places and I see barbed wires with a danger sign on it. So fast forward, later on after the war, we sitting and talking, and then one guy said, "Oh, I have to tell you guys something." And I'm like, what are you talking to me? He said, in Liberia, when they used to have all these barbed wires with the human hair and saying danger on it, I'm like, yeah. He said, only the white man could go into that fence. Why you think that happened? Because they have conditioned us to believe that those areas that were fenced off and they had these danger signs on it to keep us from going into that fence. But do you know why they went into those fences?
They were digging our diamonds.
That's where they were extracting our resources. So you see how we were conditioned? And I bet you, most of you, including me, who have been into villages and went to towns and stuff, I bet you can point to some of those areas. And until today, there are some villagers who still not going into those areas, into those barbed wire fences, because that danger sign is there. So we have to free our mind. So no, we are not independent. We are still clouded.
Thank you, Mr. Paul.
By these. Yeah, so I thank you guys, and I hope to be on another show. Thank you, Prince. I hope you come back again and educate us, because we need a history.
All right. So, Prince, thank you, Mr. Paul, so much for your contribution. Prince, do you think Liberia is independent? Do you think Liberia is an autonomous state? Or do you think Liberia is a dependent country? Your take, and then I'll give you 2 minutes too, because Paul took 2 minutes. So, 2 minutes. Go ahead.
The question rather is sort of kind of a little bit obscure in the fact that how do I address it? Can I address it from a legalistic perspective? And I could address it from a more or less a scholastic perspective or actuality. Because when you talk about independent, Liberia is an independent nation. In terms of legally, is an independent nation.
Mm-hmm.
But the mind of the people psychologically is not independent because, like the Dr. Porter said, that and I said doctor, I mean with respect to the fact that you are intellectual, and as an intellectual person, I give you honorary doctorate degree.
Thank you.
and the mind of the people are being conditioned, and that barrier have to be broken by educating the people, by talking these things. Dr. Porter talked about the fence with the barbed wire. Before even prior before the white man came, there was fence and barbed wires. Remember your grandma would tell you that forest, nobody go in that forest, they got Gina in there. The white man will come and walk in that same very forest. And when you go low and behold, you find that in that forest that diamond and gold timber there. But your grandmother, they say, don't go in that forest, you got Gina in there, you never go in that forest. Oh, don't fish in the water, you got our ancestor spirit in there. Mommy water. So there have always been, so it's a thing of the mind. That's why we need to inform ourselves. If I had not met my uncle and sat with him and he told me these things, today my mind, light would not have been in my mind. My mind have been eliminated. I mean, the Illuminati is the knowledge of vast of the unknown. My mind have been eliminated. So our people need to be taught. We need to talk these things. We need to discuss these things. And thank God for Mark Zuckerberg, and thank God for the opportunity, and thank God for Sis Caroline, who is eager, hungry to get the information out there. We can do this together. We can. Liberia will rise again. When I mean Liberia will rise again, I'm not talking about your Liberia 1847. Okay, I'm not talking about your Liberia 1847. Those three men that God gave the inspiration to of this nation, Liberia was founded by a divine principle. The first place they put their feet, they call it Providence Island. You know what Providence mean? God's island. What Providence mean? The old Greek for God is Providence. So thank you very much, Caroline. Thank you very much, Mr. Porter, and thank you very much, Dr. Positive. But I want to thank with you. I mean, consolidated with you. Liberia will rise again, and we can only rise out of your ignorance by your education.
Thank you,
My
sir.
father always told me, Prince, don't allow your education, your schooling, to get in the way of your education. What I learn academically is my schooling. What I research for myself is my education. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Caroline. Your take, and then we'll wrap up. We got like 1 minute to go. So you'll get 1 minute. Go ahead.
Well, once again, thank you for having me on here, and thank you to everyone that contributed today. This is it's something we have to discuss one way or the other. Sometimes we don't want to talk about these things, but the word of God said, lack of knowledge, my people perish. So again, I'm going to go back. Everything does not have to be 100%, but we as a nation have to want to be free. Our mind we have to condition our mind in a sense where we are not looking up to everybody for everything. We have so many things in our nation that can, even provide for the world. Like Firestone is right there, that is making billions of dollars every single day from our people just working there. These people on that Firestone, they don't have good hospital. They don't have good running water. They don't have schools for their children. That's what our government, our leaders need to look into. We need leaders that will love the country. We need leaders that will empower their own people. We need leaders that will not compromise the lifestyle of our people. Like I posted on my Facebook page one time, Liberians, we are tired of surviving. We want to live. We want to live the life. We have leaders that have traveled outside of the country, that have learned enough things to take to the country, to impact the country in a positive way. 174 years old, let us celebrate this 174 years old with pride, with dignity. In a sense that every child, every woman should have a voice. Every man should be able to feed for feed his family, that shouldn't be depending on their brother or sister or cousin or nephew in America just for one cup of rice. So let our leaders empower the nation. And again, we will continue to have this discussion. I would like to say Happy Independence Day to my friends, to my family, to Liberia as a whole. We will celebrate our independence, but we will continue to talk about these things so the mind of our people can be changed and know that you can't go wrong with independence. Independence doesn't mean you get everything for free. Independence means that you are able to stand on your own. You are able to stand on your own, to provide for yourself. That's what independence means. So thank you again for having me on.
Hey man, thank you so much. Again, I want to thank my impromptu panelists, Mr. Port, Prince, and Caroline for joining me. Caroline said she didn't want to make me sit down here by myself, so she came and stayed with me. And so thank you so much, Caroline. To everybody that contributed on the show, I want to say thank you. Your time here really means well to me. This is what I mean. In order for Liberia to rise, I don't believe in a utopian society that everything will magically happen. We have to plan our future. And if other people outside of Liberia are planning our future for us, we ourselves as a country need to sit down and plan on how we will manage our resources, how we'll sell our products, how we'll grow our economy. No, America shouldn't decide what our GDP should be. China shouldn't decide what our GDP should be. China shouldn't decide the price of our resources. So this is what I mean when I say Liberia should rise. We need to fix all these little things in order for Liberia to rise. So on behalf of everybody on Facebook, on behalf of the Liberia should rise fans, I want to say thanks to Mr. Port, Prince, and Caroline for joining me. And I will definitely bring Prince on here for a topic. We never had a show together before, Prince. So I'm going to talk to you. I'll call you and we'll plan a show individually just to have a discussion with you on Liberia, because our mindset is the thing that is impacting all of us. You send somebody money in Liberia, everybody telling you now they're independent on you. I've been taken by like 3 times a week, 3 times a day now, because I'm watching all the independence are on me. I'm washing it off my body because everybody telling me my independent on you. So yeah, so folks, I want to say thank you to all of you for joining us. You guys have a blessed week. Caroline, thank you so much for joining again. I appreciate your time on here. Prince, thank you. You guys have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, man. Take care. All right, folks, this is how we'll wrap the show up. So you guys have a wonderful day. This is Dr. Positive saying thank you to all of you. You guys have a wonderful you guys have a wonderful week, and we'll see you tomorrow. We'll be discussing patriotism and the rise of Liberia, patriotism and the impact on Liberia. So join us tomorrow. Says Yasendi, everyone that joined us, we want to say thank you for joining us. Miss Taylor, everybody, Miss Colley, thank you for your contribution, and you guys have a blessed day.